Hello, everybody. Hi, Sagittarius. This is Lee at Fresh Astrology, and I'm joined today with Carolyn,
fellow Sag.
Sagittarius, fire sign, and Mimi.
Hello.
These are my co-founders and colleagues at Camille, my coaching company. And so Mimi and Carolyn focus on coaching. They don't know as much about astrology, but they're joining me today because for 2020, it's such a year about moving your life and turbocharging your life and making big transitions to move yourself forward, hopefully, that using our coaching tools just seems very indicated. And I almost feel like irresponsible and like I'm hurting people if I don't share our tools. So I wanted to invite them in. They can listen to your forecast and they're going to advise on, is there anything we have for free that you guys might like to take part in that might help you given the astrology of what you got going on? And so Carolyn may identify with what's going on here with you, and feel free to share in the comments what's going on for you, because it helps. Maybe there are other people watching, they'll have the same question. It may help somebody. So feel free to comment and ask questions, or just let us know what's going on for you personally. So Sagittarius, let's look at your chart. So the intensity that you felt over the last 3 years in particular, but kind of over the last 10 years too, but the crunch has really come over the last 3 to 2.5 years. And December and January are like turning points for you. This is happening in your daily work life. If you are retired or you're not working yet, it has more to do with your value system. And for some of you, it may have to do with your marriage, you know. So, but we're gonna really focus on career. So for career, there's been the influence of Pluto, which wants to completely transform your work life. And it wants to help you face your fears around working, face your fears around earning money, face your fears around asking for a raise. And it wants to challenge you to face all your fears to do with anything to do with your career. Saturn's come in and said, okay, in addition to facing your fears, you have to learn to be a leader. You have to be the most mature person in the room, whether you like it or not. And Saturn has pretty steep expectations. And so it may have felt at times, I don't know, if you feel like, do I have to be the grown-up in the room? Do I have to be the one who decide? Do I have to be the decider? You know, is nobody else going to take charge or responsibility? Why is it me? And I don't know, does that?
Yeah, I mean, and it feels like that not only in my work life, but in my personal life too. That just seems to be a theme.
Maybe with marriage too. So even if it is your career, it could be about relationships and stuff, and with people close in. But the second house you can sometimes read as a marriage house, you know, especially if the work stuff doesn't apply as much. I can kind of see, I have a daughter who's a Sagittarius who's much younger and not even, you know, she's just post high school. So it's interesting, like she's not fully in her career, she's not married. So I'm like, what does this mean for her? But I definitely think it has to do with our value system. So for somebody where none of, like, the career doesn't seem as applicable or the marriage doesn't seem as applicable, it could be like really being forced to mature and grow in your value system. And Saturn does this in a kind of a harsh way if we're not quite getting with the program. And then the entrance of Jupiter in December has brought some luck and a little bit of lift here. It may feel temporarily like your work has exploded, the volume explodes. And it's just, I keep thinking of that movie Fantasia where the Sorcerer's Apprentice, does anybody remember the Sorcerer's Apprentice? And he starts playing around with the magician's wand or something, and then everything starts exploding, like all those buckets are marching around. It kind of feels like that in your work world. And it also like challenging your value system. That is, you know, as you grow as an individual and a soul and you mature. It's like you get confronted with so many challenges to your growth. And I don't know if that's as applicable to you, but I can see it with my daughter for sure. But the work world can feel very intense and a little like a lot of work is there. And maybe the feeling of needing some assistance or help and wanting people around you to be more mature, that could be there, like looking for people to pick up the slack kind of thing. But that's sort of the bigger picture, but specific to February. You start the month with the sun in Aquarius. This is your third house of communications. This is all things writing, speaking. So you could be doing public speaking. When I think of my daughter, I'm just trying to think of examples, like she's leading tours, like in a kind of nature preserve, and you're doing these videos. And so it's a lot of communication and content through language, the use of language. It could be taking little courses online. It's also teaching courses online, would be an example. There's also little tiny trips here and there, like little car trips that are going on. And in the month of February, you want to make sure you checked your oil, that your windshield wipers are new, so you don't get caught in a snowstorm or rainstorm with, old wipers, like little stuff. Because
take me with you, Karen. I know. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you drive back and forth to help your kids drive back and forth to college. So sometimes, but it's also highlighted here. Actually, it's really that you're on the tail end of it. Like your days of driving back and forth may be coming to a close in February. And then this Mercury energy goes more into the area of your home and your house. And there will be some decision points and thinking things through around property and housing. And that's where you'll be mulling things over. And also family issues, maybe aging parents, but family issues where there's some bigger decisions being made. And so for February, with these decisions, you don't want to feel rushed. You don't want to rush. You want to take your time because of the Mercury retrograde. Do your homework, think things through. Like if you're trying to sell a house, you want to wait, like, will we get another offer? That's not always wise, but you want to just try not to sign a contract, if you can help it, until March. So
it's interesting because I have a property that's about to go up for sale.
Yes. What's the date of putting it up?
We haven't made a decision, and now I'm thinking
March.
Maybe March.
Maybe March would be better because you just avoid that whole Mercury. Because I would not personally want to get an offer under a retrograde, because you'll be going back and forth with that person over, like, we've all sold property here. I don't know if you guys have ever sold property or purchased property, but sometimes you can get in these intense, long, drawn out back and forths. And I think that would be amplified under Mercury retrograde. I would be using this thinking through, researching, getting it right, getting the language right, getting the photographs right. And then the sign goes up the minute Mercury goes direct or something.
Could you list it in February but not accept offers until March? Would that be?
You could, but you might be rethinking your price. Like if you move forward with something under it. Now, the thing that's in your favor here, though, is you've already listed it before, and now you're relisting. And so on anything that starts with RE, this is the funny little trick with Mercury retrograde. If you're relisting, possibly a retrograde is a good time to relist.
That's interesting.
I like
that.
Yeah. Okay, let's swerve and pivot on that. Yeah, I think of a relisting maybe. Yeah. So if you guys out there share any of that scenario.
Fellow
Yeah, we're
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius here. We're not chatting yet. But feel free to ask questions.
And maybe your road trip could include a resort.
A resort. I like that. I like that.
There's one I would like to revisit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, a retreat. So housing issues, and really the kind of threshold that's activated during this month is right at the base point of your chart between Aquarius and Pisces. And this is where Mercury's, like a vacuum cleaner going back and forth. And then there's a new moon in Pisces starting on the 23rd. So maybe listing date would be the 23rd. If you want to just do it in February, relist on the new moon. I've noticed some of my mentors who have courses. I don't know if I should say who, but people who teach me, I noticed they time their new offerings with the new moons, and they're very successful. So maybe timing it with the new moon would be a good idea, February 23rd.
Okay.
And it's a relisting. So if you don't have a property that's going on the market, it may be that you're thinking through some issues to do with roommates, who lives where, family members going back and forth to visit family, thinking about, let's see, somebody says, Patricia, hi, Patricia, houses on both sides of me are on the market. I am staying put, doing restoration. Great. So the restoration, RE, there's the RE. So Patricia, that restoration is perfect under a retrograde, because you're restoring something. Something needs some work and you're working on it. That is absolutely good timing to work on something like that. So there's another example. It may not be the sale of property. It may not be roommates, but she's working on restoration. And so she'll be talking, I imagine, talking to the Masons, thinking about, if there's some decisions to be made. And so Mercury retrograde, I want to emphasize, it can be big decisions, but it can also be I would think restoration of the Masonry, it's an important project, but it's not like an earth-shattering, life-changing decision point for Patricia. And so it can show you how Mercury retrograde doesn't have to apply to big life-changing moments. We have them 3 times a year. It can be just a time when certain kinds of things are optimal and some things are a pain in the neck, and restoring something is optimal. And it's not, hopefully not a big deal for Patricia, although it may go on longer than you think. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell.
So, with astrology, I always ask you what I can do about it. So you give me the astrology, and then I sort of new at astrology, so I'm always like, well, what can I do to make sure the good things that are out there that I want to bring into my life, I can partner with and I can do something about. And we often talk about different coaching tools. So as a Sagittarius and looking at what's going on for us, for the Sagittarians, what tools could we use, or which should I be using that would kind of set me up for success?
Right. Okay. So there are 2 things that come to mind. We have some freebies out there in the form of something called a bullet journal. These are 7-day journals that you can download, and they're meant to give you a taste of self-coaching. And there are these fun prompts. They're playful. So 2 things I see for Sagittarius. One thing I notice is the money houses are lit up. So that second house where I'm talking about career, that's also about your money. And also something I hadn't mentioned before, but the North Node is in your 8th house of your bigger financial picture. If there are property issues, even a restoration, there's some money issues too, maybe some directional changes around work, some decisions being made around work. So money could be something you want to work on. So we have the Money Shift bullet journal that's a free download, 7 days of little exercises. And we also have a money course, a Money Shift course, if you really want to work on your relationship with money in terms of bringing in more money.
It's kind of like more involved exercise.
Yeah, more involved, more of a commitment if you're really ready. Taking a course and reworking some things in February is also actually really well starred for you guys because of the 3rd house activity and the Mercury retrograde. So one area is money. The other area I see here, because of the 4th house also, this area of the home, it symbolizes your past and how you grew up, which also is often how you're shaped psychologically and emotionally. And so when there's fourth house activity, especially with Mercury down here, the mind, memories, and all the like rethinking, remembering the past, maybe some problems in the past or emotions or situations that kind of come up from the past and bite you and hold you back. That mindset course we have a mindset bullet journal, but it's actually, we called it a happiness shift bullet journal. That's a freebie that would be good, a good start to work on mindset. And then the mindset course is our most well-priced course for a reason, because we really believe in it and we want people to have access to it. So I think those would be good starting
Even if you
points.
buy the money course, you got the mindset shift course first, because we think you have to start everything with mind. It all begins with mindset.
Yeah, right.
And that was interesting when you were talking about the past, because I think so many of our beliefs or knowledge or expectations of money are set when we're young. And I think for women, few of those memories and lessons and teachings about money were positive. Right. And
or
even
empowering.
And even today, so many of the things that are geared towards women are geared towards scrimping and saving and not earning and investing
And empowering
enjoying.
and enjoying.
Yeah, right.
Like we've talked to a lot of women that are just like, oh, I'm just bad with money. I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah. You just think you are.
Stop letting yourself tell.
Yeah, we worked with
Tell
one
that
client
story.
who kept saying she was so bad with money. She was so bad. She just spent so much money. She was so bad with money. And we got to the heart of it, and she was extremely generous with money. What she was doing was kind and donating, buying things for people we need. And it was just so interesting that women frame things like that as negative, when men would be like, well,
think about it totally differently.
I'm really generous with my money. I've been able to earn a lot, so I can give a lot. And we just really have to change those conversations. But
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jules says, like I said before, wow, I'm a Sag, Ryan. This is on point. I have a huge settlement coming up this week from an accident in July of 2018.
Oh, goodness.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad it's coming to fruition.
Yeah.
The last decade was hard. Lee keeps talking about how hard the last decade has been. So we're very excited. And I think that's part of why we wanted to come and talk to everybody, because 2020 is going to be such a transitional year for all of us.
we all need to just be ready for it.
And make it positive and fun.
Yes, exactly. And we know from experience that the tools we use have gotten us through the last decade. These tools we use have gotten us through some challenging times, and we've come out the other side and really gone from survival mode to thriving and enjoying and feeling more filled with life and glowing from the inside out when we use the tools. And believe me, sometimes we forget a few days, and then you start to feel that just weird feeling that comes from daily life without the tools.
So real, everybody.
Yeah.
We're with you.
Yeah.
We are with you.
It's so real. It's so true. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're going to move on and do Capricorn next, if you're interested. And
Bye, Sagittarius.
bye, everybody. Take care.
You're my people.
Yep.